We're live.
Charlotte 704. Welcome to this latest edition of Under Construction. We're actually starting on time today, man. Good job, y'all. I am your host, Jamal, the Angry Black Fan, Darby. Top left is my dog, Rodney, Rob Props Richardson. To the lower left is I ain't even gonna call you no guest, man. Vince, the bearded realtor, Dunlap. And to the bottom right hand corner, my dog, Kaiser Sose. What's going on, fellas?
What's up? What's up?
What's up, y'all? What's up? Popping.
So, y'all, man, it's been a crazy week, man. Before we get into the topics at hand, we had a week off because, quite honestly, not much going on in the news cycle. You know, man, no sports to talk about, nothing crazy to talk about. But what a difference a week makes. Because this week, boy, oh boy, it exploded like we just didn't expect it to. So without further ado, let's get it popping. So the first topic, and unless you were under a rock, you may not have heard, but former Carolina Panthers quarterback Cam Newton, God, that hurts to say that, has signed a contract with the dreaded New England Patriots. Oh man, so much to talk about as far as that goes. Deals of his contract are a little weird to say the least, not very lucrative. But Cam Newton himself came out and said, "It is not about money, y'all. It is about his respect. He wants y'all to put some respect on his name." Kaza, start us off, man. How do you feel about Cam Newton's signing with the New England Patriots overall?
So, I'm going to call myself out here, pat myself on the back. 14 weeks ago, I made a comment. This is before they even released Cam Newton, when they were talking about, oh, we don't know if Cam move forward with Cam if he's healthy. And I said, watch Cam go win a ring with the Patriots. And everyone was like, oh, man. Well, here we are. Phase one complete. I think that when Cam Newton hit the free agent market, honestly, I felt like it was a no-brainer that Belichick would at least look at Cam. I mean, every team's going to look at Cam. Everyone knows if Cam Newton is healthy, and Max Kellerman makes this point all the time, the last time we saw Cam Newton healthy, the Panthers were 6-2, and Cam Newton was completing 70% of his passes. Okay? The idea, well, Cam's been on a decline for the last few years. It's like, we all forgot when the Panthers were 6-2, and people were like, Cam might win another MVP, and then he took a hit to the shoulder.
People tend to forget about that, but go ahead.
It's odd. And even if you look at the rest of that season, the Panthers didn't win another game with Cam Newton as the quarterback, but if you just took that season, those stats in a vacuum, and compared them with the rest of Cam's seasons, you wouldn't think anything was wrong there. His stats looked as good as the stats when he made the Pro Bowl his second season. So I think teams know if Cam Newton's healthy, man, this might be this week. We got to look at this guy. Belichick looks at him. I think he says, okay, we're going to take a gamble on this guy. He can add something different to. I think he looked at what he was doing with Christian McCaffrey. That's what the Patriots like to do. We're going to throw them little shorts out to our slot receivers and running backs. I think it's a great thing for Cam. It's a gamble for the Patriots, but there's not a lot of risk there. If it doesn't work out, oh well.
Rodney, what you got, brother? What are you thinking about former QB playing for the Patriots of all teams?
I mean, it's honestly, it's not a surprise. I mean, if you listen to the things Belichick has said about Cam in the past, you already know that he valued Cam as a weapon. For them to be able to get him so cheap, man, it proves why that they've been the model organization in the NFL for the past 25 years. They take the necessary risk, man, and that team is set up to win now, man. You look at that defense, that defense is stacked. You got the defensive player of the year, Stephon Gilmore, on that defense, man. Look, I'm rooting for Cam to get to the Super Bowl, man. Belichick will make the necessary adjustments.
There's a reason why we're laughing.
We're not gonna make it.
Look, man, I'm laughing. I'm laughing at you, right? Well, not at you necessarily, but I'm laughing because how many times this week have we been on Facebook or heard from somebody? Man, I can't. Boy, I hope the Patriots win everything. I hope the Patriots win the Super Bowl. Look, man, I personally, I can never ever get to a point where I'm say I'm a Patriots. Like that'll never happen. Like I will be a fan of Hitler before I be a fan of the Patriots. I can't do it. However, if the Patriots, if they win, cool. Cam gets the Super Bowl. That's how I feel about it, man. Vince, what you got, man?
Okay. When Cam Newton got released by Carolina, I was on Facebook and I actually made a post that basically says that I will root for whatever team Cam Newton ends up with. And if you go look at my comments, you'll see where I said, except the Cowboys and the Patriots. With those two.
Right.
That being said, I think any fan who keeps up with football in any aspect could have made the assumption that he was going to go to New England. New England,
yeah, I agree.
Was as much as I hate New England, they've been the best fit for Cam Newton the entire time.
It made too much sense from the jump.
But here's the deal. You know, we've heard all these excuses about Cam's and his health, and can he take a physical? He's not able to travel, and you know, Carolina got rid of him because his history of injuries, this, that, and the third. The Patriots 2 weeks ago were looked at as a fringe playoff team. Now that Tom Brady is no longer with New England, and now with Cam Newton, they are now back to being unequivocal Super Bowl favorites. So how have we been hearing so much about Cam Newton's injury? He's out of his prime. He can't play, and then he signs with the team, and now all of a sudden he's made them Super Bowl contenders all of a sudden. Meanwhile, New England just signed this dude for a hot bag of potato chips, and they traded Bridgewater $20 million this year. So I honestly think that, considering the fact that there were other teams who needed a quarterback more than New England, the fact that New England signed Cam Newton, all those other teams are now looking like, yo, we should have picked them up. All
right, fellas. So Scott Zolak, who is a New England Patriots broadcaster, he is predicting that Jared Stidham, or however you pronounce his name, will beat out Cam Newton to become the starter, which ultimately may result in Cam Newton not even being on the Patriots roster when the season starts. Under what circumstances could you even see that happening? Who wants to take this one first?
I believe that Stidham will probably start the season simply because he's already been there. He's familiar with the offense. But as Cam ingratiates himself a little bit more into the New England culture, I'd say no later than week 3 or week 4, Cam Newton should be the full-time starter. If Cam doesn't start the season, and keep in mind with COVID going on, we don't have a preseason. So if he doesn't start the season, I won't be too surprised. I'd be more surprised if it's week 5 and Cam isn't starting.
Rodney, what you got?
I know Cam is going to start week 1 of preseason versus Carolina.
Oh, yeah. You can bet that one.
I mean, barring injury, I don't see any way he doesn't start. To be honest with you, man, like is super talented. He's an experienced NFL quarterback. He's been a Super Bowl. He's been to the Super Bowl. He's been an MVP. Honestly, this is his job to lose. Like he's out here trying to prove it, and if he doesn't win his job, something's wrong.
Kaiser, what you got?
If Cam is 80% healthy, he starts.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Kaiser.
No, go ahead.
Well, with everything that we just said about Cam, we'd be surprised if he doesn't start. Yada yada yada. Put yourself in Carolina's shoes. Once again, how do you justify releasing Cam Newton?
So Charlotte's professional sports teams have made numerous mistakes when it comes to handling. It's kind of like our thing, okay? This might be the biggest. This might be the biggest mistake you look at what happened with Alonzo Mourning and then Larry Johnson and Kemba Walker, Steve Smith, Josh Norman. This might be the biggest one because if Cam Newton goes to New England and they don't even have to win the Super Bowl, if they just win the division, which they were not predicted to do before he got there, this makes Tepper, Rule, and company look so bad. I mean, this is going to make you look so bad, especially if the Panthers aren't that good behind Teddy Bridgewater. And here's the thing. I'm rooting for Teddy. I actually like Teddy Bridgewater.
Yeah, we all are. We all are.
And great timing on the question. I actually like Teddy Bridgewater a lot, and I feel like if Cam wasn't going to be the answer, Teddy's not a bad direction to go in. But I felt like you could have at least given Cam that one more year to see what he could do when he was healthy. And so now he's going to go to the New England Patriots. I mean, they're like the Chicago Bulls of the NFL, and you're going to give them – they just lost maybe the greatest quarterback of all time, and you're going to give them one of the best quarterbacks of our generation now? Oh, my God. I just don't – you're right, Vince. I don't see how you could justify that.
It's like losing
Jamal, what do you think?
It's like losing Michael Jordan and then you sign Kobe. It's like really like the rich,
Yeah.
like the rich keeps getting compensated, like, and then we're responsible for it. Like, I don't know if you guys remember this. Maybe y'all do, maybe y'all don't. But do you guys remember on an old under construction show? I said that oftentimes, and more so with the NBA than the NFL, but oftentimes bad teams make good teams better.
Yes.
I'm not saying that the Panthers are a bad franchise overall, but we were a bad team last year at least. And I feel like it is a situation where a bad team is going to make a good team better. And I am sick and tired of Charlotte being at the forefront of that all the damn time. Like, look, man,
we Boston Pipeline.
Listen. There is one thing that the Carolina Panthers and the Charlotte Hornets have in common. That common theme is they are both looking for sustained success. I think we all can agree on that. I think both franchises have struggled with consistently winning. The Hornets more so, obviously, than the Panthers are. The thing with Tepper, as it relates to Cam Newton and him looking bad and this new organization, so to speak, looking bad, I just think David Tepper is hell-bent on putting his stamp on this franchise, whether that makes logical sense or not. It may make sense, it may not. We don't really know yet. Let's be fair. We don't know what Matt Rule, what David Tepper, we don't know how it's all going to shape up in the next 3 or 4 years. We may be building something where we build that sustained success. We don't know that yet. However, the way it looks right now, and y'all know my favorite word, the optics and the way everything looks right now, today, in July 5th, 2020, it's just like, why do we always have to help other teams get to their goals before we get to our goals? Yeah. And from a fan perspective, it's just not a good look, man. It's
pressure on Teddy Bridgewater is immense right now. He's got to be Andrew Luck. Remember when?
Pretty much.
Remember when the Colts said, okay, we're going to get rid of Peyton Manning, and everyone's like, are you crazy? And then Peyton Manning goes to Denver, wins the Super Bowl.
Wins the Super Bowl.
You know, essentially.
Well, I mean, he had the referees' help, but that's another story. But go ahead.
That's another story. But you know, he breaks all these offensive records on another team, and people are like, "Well, see, Indy, you were stupid." But they had a pretty good run with Andrew Luck. It didn't end like they wanted it to because he retired early, but that ended up not being a bad move in hindsight. You know, they said, okay, we know we have one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, but we're all in on this Luck kid, and there wasn't much fall off. The Panthers have to do that. And I don't think they can do that. Teddy Bridgewater, as much as I like the guy, he's not what Andrew Luck was coming out of college. You know, Teddy Bridgewater has an injury history. Right, he's got an injury history, and even when he's healthy, he's been, you know, a starting level NFL quarterback, and that's not what the Panthers need right now.
Right. What you got, Rodney?
So let me ask you guys a question. So how do you feel about all this Teddy Bridgewater slander going on social media? Like, he recently came out and had to defend himself.
Let me take this one first, man, and let me say something. As Charlotte as a fan base, I think everybody is guilty of this of some sort, because let's be real, let's be truthful. We're all, everybody who was a Cam Newton Panthers fan was all pretty hurt by what happened, and we're taking our emotions out on Teddy Bridgewater, which is completely unfair. Let's just be truthful about that. It's pretty unfair to Teddy Bridgewater. Look, if somebody offered me $20 million to replace whoever, you think I'm on. Hell yeah, I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna take it in a heartbeat. You'd be a fool not to. So it's completely unfair. And Teddy Bridgewater reminded everybody, let's not forget all this guy has been through with his injuries. This is what his third team in the last 5 to 8 years, whatever. I'm not sure about the specifics, but he's on his third team. And let's not forget that this guy has something to prove, just like Terry Rozier has something to prove with the Hornets. Because let's be real, a lot of this fan base took their anger out on Kemba Walker-Lever, on Terry Rozier, and ultimately this fan base is doing the same thing on Teddy Bridgewater, and they are both equally as unfair.
And just like with Terry Rozier, I think what's happened with Teddy Bridgewater, we got a lot of fans who are not football fans. They're only Panthers fans.
Or Cam Newton fans. Let's be real.
What's up?
Or they're only Cam Newton fans. Let's be truthful.
And what I mean by that is they aren't aware of who Teddy Bridgewater even is or who he was, because anybody who watched Teddy Bridgewater before the injury would have no problem with him coming to Carolina. And in addition to that, after he went, I think he was to the Jets, and then they dropped him like a bad habit right at a gas station or something. A lot of people don't know that when his first year with the Saints, he actually had the opportunity to sign with the Dolphins and actually be a starter, but he chose to stay in New Orleans. And then when Drew Brees went down last year, what did Teddy Bridgewater do without his star running back? He went 5-0. He went undefeated. We'll go with that. He went undefeated. So with the season that we just had last year with everybody on the Cal Allen train, and we saw how that went, and to hate Teddy Bridgewater, to throw any shade at Teddy Bridgewater whatsoever, I think it's crass. I think it's illogical. And just like Terry Rozier, when Carolina doesn't have a good season, no matter how great Bridgewater plays, I think he will unnecessarily take the brunt of the criticism.
I agree. Kaza, before you go, I want to say one thing before you go, Kaza, because I think everybody needs to keep in mind that if and when, and especially if we have a football season, people are tending to forgetting, like, we're going to have 7 rookies on defense that are going to have a lot of responsibility because we lost so much defensively. That's obviously not going to be Teddy Bridgewater's fault. I'm not trying to plant excuses from the jump. I'm just telling you the reality of what the Panther season could be before it gets there. Because what were you saying, sir?
I was going to say, we've all, for the past almost decade, it's always been, as Cam Newton goes, the Carolina Panthers go. We've all heard that. Even though the Panthers were really a defensive team, but if Cam wasn't doing well, then the Panthers weren't doing well. And it's going to be interesting to see how that translates to Teddy Bridgewater, because I don't think that'll be the case. I don't think it'll be, as Teddy Bridgewater goes, the Panthers go, because that wasn't the case with the Saints.
I agree with that.
Really good point. Yeah.
And Bridgewater played fairly well, but the Saints were a good team overall. They have maybe one of the best wide receivers in football. He won't have that luxury here in Carolina. They have a great defense. He won't have that luxury here in Carolina. So it's going to be, fans are going to have to get used to the idea that the Carolina Panthers are not like this quarterback-centric team like we were with Cam Newton. So it's going to be an adjustment for the fans.
You know what, man? And here's something that I'm just thinking of, man. Like, if you look at Mike Shula in particular, I felt like the entire offense was centered around Cam Newton. And this is through no fault of Cam Newton's. But a lot of times I was just like, maybe that's probably not the way to go. Because you're too dependent on one guy. You get what I'm saying? And now you could justify that when we had Ted Ginn and Philly Brown and guys like that. But as we had Greg Olsen and Chris McCaffrey and whatever else, I just felt like the offense wasn't dynamic enough, and it put a lot of pressure on Cam Newton, especially with you having him run so much, which ultimately ended up in multiple injuries for the guy. So it's just like, with that being said, and him going to New England, which I'm assuming, they're going to run the same offense, and you got Cam Newton, doing a lot of short passes to Edelman and whoever. I just wondered, not even wonder, but it looks like we just mishandled Cam Newton all the way around. Now that I'm really talking through it, you know what I mean?
I always feel
And
like
that's the funny part,
The
because
mismanagement of Cameron Jarrell Newton.
yeah, and the mismanagement of Cam Newton is something that I personally, the train, and I know Rodney, we've been on that train for at least the last 5 years, and we've been told to shut the hell up. And now that he's gone, and you said something that they focused the offense around Cam Newton so much, and I can't agree with that for the simple fact that in his entire time in Carolina, they never spent the first round draft pick on the offensive lineman. His entire
Well, I think it felt like I had this discussion with someone on Facebook or YouTube or something recently about they were saying that Cam Newton had been coddled in Carolina because he won't be coddled in New England. I think Colin Cowherd said something like that, and I'm like,
of course, Colin Cowherd said that.
Yeah, the Panthers wanted Cam Newton to be the offense without building the offense around him.
Agreed.
That was the big problem, and I always feel like the Mike Shula era was
in particular
a waste, because I felt like they did great with Chud, and I actually feel like they did great with Norv as well. But that in between with Mike Shula, that was the mismanagement of Cam Newton right there. I'll always feel like we could have won that Super Bowl if you just run Cam Newton. You got maybe one of the best running quarterbacks in the history of the league.
Yeah.
Run him. Why are you sitting behind Mike Rimmers and letting him get lit up every play?
Listen, Kaza, to that point, especially when you were doing it all season, and then you get to the biggest stage in the biggest game and say, you know what, let's try something else today. Like, come on, man.
All right. Real quick, what Belichick's going to do that the Panthers didn't is he's going to have the threat of Cam doing something outside of the ordinary, looming so large that it makes defenses scared. That is what the Carolina Panthers didn't do. We knew when they were going to run Cam, so the other teams knew they're going to run Cam. Belichick's going to be able to better disguise that, and he's gonna get more out of Cam that way.
Yeah.
Now, Kaza, you kind of stole my thunder to the next point.
He finally has an offensive line.
You kind of stole my thunder on my next point, but I'll kind of just ask this question anyway. To the Cam detractors are going to say, well, when he gets to New England, he's not really accurate, and he's not going to be able to throw these short passes in New England system. The way that they like to do things. What do y'all say to that? What do y'all? Do y'all believe that to be true?
I think the best response to that will basically be to say, wait until the season starts, and you're going to see. Literally, wait until the season starts, because there are a plethora of videos out there on Twitter right now.
I'm glad you said that. Go ahead. Go ahead.
The multiple times that Cam Newton has thrown those short passes, and the receivers have dropped them. And Jamal actually taking that a different direction. I think what's going to happen when he's throwing these short passes and his completion percentage is high 60s, low to mid 70s. Well, I think what will happen is everyone will say, well, he's throwing short passes. He's throwing only 5 to 10 yard dumps and outs, and that's the only reason why his percentage is so high. Well, there's a guy who's in Tampa Bay right now who's been doing it for the last 5 years, and you had no critique of him doing it. So why is
he
been doing it the last 20 years?
Right.
So, it'll be interesting, but I think especially in that system, now that he has an offense that will protect him, an offensive line, now that he has a stable coaching staff, I think the numbers will more than speak for themselves this upcoming season.
Right. You got anything? Oh, go ahead, Kaz.
Go ahead, guys.
We've seen what Cam can do in the short passing game with a competent offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
We're not going to sit here and pretend like North Turner didn't teach Cam how to throw those passes. He threw 70% before that shoulder injury, and it ended up 65% on the year. And Christian McCaffrey almost had 1,000 receiving yards that season. Who was throwing to him?
Yeah,
it was Cam Newton throwing those little shorts So I think actually he's going to thrive in that system in New England, and he's going to be able to do something that Jarris didn't and Tom Brady couldn't do, and that's if you need to bring the cannon out, he's going to be able to bring the cannon out.
That's what I'm waiting on. Yeah.
I'm not sure if the cannon is going to be the same as it was because we don't know how that shoulder has held up over the
last it will be. It will be. I'm going on.
Yeah. I mean, if Cam can put it 60 yards down the field if he needs to, and that is something that the Patriots haven't really had. Tom Brady could throw the long ball when Randy Moss was playing for him, but everyone else Tom Brady has relied on being Captain Dink and Dunk. So I think Belichick looks at all. If we can see it, I know Belichick's like, you know what?
Yeah.
I got a guy who can throw a 5-yard out and then go 40 yards down the middle of the field.
Right.
That's the guy I want. So
hey, real quick, Jamal, I don't know where you're about to go next, so I want to throw this in just in case you do shift the subject.
All right.
How do you guys feel about his contract as it relates to the rest of the NFL?
I have one word. I look, for the sake of time, we have to move on. So I'm going to tell you how I feel about his contract in one word. Disrespectful. Next.
I would say this. I saw this on Twitter the other day. There are 41 kickers in the NFL who will be getting paid more this year than Cam Newton, and there are only 32 NFL teams.
It's disrespectful, but given Cam Newton's what we perceive to be his recent injury history, I'm not really that surprised.
I'm not surprised either, though.
Actually, this is going to be a bad thing for Colin Kaepernick. I felt like
they're already using it against him.
Now that the doors have opened again for teams being interested in Colin Kaepernick, they were waiting to see what happened with Cam Newton. Essentially, if you were interested in Colin, you had to be interested in Cam. Cam's off the table now, so I'm looking at Colin. But you can't reasonably pay Colin Kaepernick more than New England paid Cam Newton. You can't offer him. He might ask for more, but you're going to be like, yeah, right. New England paid Cam Newton $1 million a year, and you want $10 million? No, and you haven't played in almost 4 seasons. I don't think so. That was very shrewd by New England. But Belichick's the smartest GM in history. He knows what he's doing. He did that for a reason.
I agree,
no doubt.
To piggyback off the prophet named Vince. This year off that Cam had is a blessing in disguise for that shoulder. That's all. That's all I'm gonna say. That's all I'm gonna say.
No doubt. All right, fellas. We could talk about this all day, but we have other topics and we have to move on. And we have talked about a beloved athlete amongst Charlotte's sports community. Now, with that being said, so many other Charlotte athletes have graced this city. We love them to death. So, who is the most beloved athlete in Charlotte's history? Before I officially ask the question, I woke up one morning. I felt like making the collage of sports athletes because of the trauma that we have endured with losing Cam Newton and Kemba Walker and Larry Johnson and Alonzo Mourning, Luke Kuechly retiring. The list goes on and on and on. Now, I want to throw a shot at myself because somebody did point out something. It was an egregious error, and I have to apologize to the Charlotte fan base for my error because I am the one who created the graphic. I left Thomas Davis off of the graphic that I made. It is an egregious error. I apologize to the Charlotte fan base. You can call me names after the show. I will gladly accept it. So, fellas, with all that being said, now I want to make something very clear. We could talk about who the best athlete in Charlotte history is, but keep in mind the question is, who is the most beloved Charlotte figure in Charlotte sports history? Who wants to take this one first?
I'll start this one off.
Go ahead, Rodney.
Muggsy Bogues.
Please tell us why, sir.
Muggsy is the size of the average man. Muggsy was one of the first notable sports figures in this town. Muggsy is still entrenched and lives in this community. Muggsy gives back to this community. Muggsy is an ambassador on behalf of this community from the NBA. And on top of that, Muggsy is coaching this community. He's moved everything here. Like Muggsy, when I think of Charlotte and athletes, the first person I think of is Muggsy. Charlotte was the NBA's, the NBA was Charlotte's first love. If there was no NBA, there'd be no Panthers here right now.
Right.
Okay, so Jamal, when you made that post on Facebook a couple of days ago, I answered the question with Cam Newton.
Okay.
And after reflecting on it, I think Cam Newton is my most beloved, but
Which is fine.
The question says, what is the city's most beloved overall? That being said, I got to retract that answer. And I'm going to try to explain why I'm going to give you guys that I'm about to give you. First off, the classic Hornets, they're all completely eliminated simply because they're the classic Hornets, and the people who love them the most are in the 40 and over club. The generation today, like nobody's really checking for the classic Hornets. So it may be deemed disrespectful, but I don't mean it as disrespectful because the kids that are going to the games today they don't know about Alonzo Mourning, they don't know about Larry Johnson, those guys. So if we want to keep
he was in Space Jam.
They didn't see Space Jam. They're waiting on Space Jam 2 to come out so they can see
Right.
Oh, and speaking of Space Jam, there was an article that came out the other day about the Michael Jordan documentary. Terry Rozier said that he did not even know that Michael Jordan won 3 titles back-to-back 2 times. So if you got an NBA player who didn't know Michael Jordan,
fired.
What do you
Right.
Trade
him. Trade him tomorrow.
Think about this. He was probably born in 95.
Exactly.
I understand a little bit.
Sorry.
Well, and that goes to my point that today's kids aren't really checking for the classic Hornets like that. So if you keep the totality in Charlotte, I think they kind of eliminate themselves. Unfortunately, I think race plays a lot into this answer as well.
Yeah,
I agree.
I won't get into my explanation how, but if you look at one player who both sides will collectively agree is a great player or ambassador to the city, I got to go with Luke Kuechly.
Luke Kuechly, yep.
I got to go with Luke Kuechly. He checks off all the blocks. He was a great player. He gives back. He's come back now as I think an advanced scouting coach with the team, and he caters to both sides of the fence when it comes to race relations. There are people, no matter how great Cam Newton has been, because of the hair, because of the way he dressed, because of his perceived poutiness on the sidelines, and all those other things, there are some people, black and white, who will refuse to accept Cam Newton as a player and ambassador to the city. Luke, he doesn't cross any of those lines. He goes fishing. He's probably fishing right now. You know what I'm saying? So city overall, I think it has to be Luke Kuechly.
Yeah.
All right. Kaiser, what you got?
Yeah, I think the question is actually kind of 2-part. So I think right now, with recency bias, and you look at right now, Luke Kuechly is probably the least polarizing figure in the history of Charlotte sports. Like Vince said, he appeals to both sides. Race does play a factor. I don't know anyone that has ever said a bad thing about Luke Kuechly. No, I just can't.
Kaiser, let me take it a step further. I don't think anyone is allowed to say anything bad about Luke Kuechly.
What could you possibly say? And I don't think the bad things that people say about Cam are valid.
I agree.
But Luke doesn't even get criticized for his play when he doesn't play well. Luke Kuechly's human. There have been times where he missed tackles or he almost cost us the Patriots game because he was holding Rob Gronkowski and the refs missed it. It was a hold.
No, he didn't.
It was a hold. But he never gets that kind of criticism. However, having said that, I think in the whole of Charlotte professional sports since 1988, when the Charlotte Hornets came in, Larry Johnson was the first superstar in Charlotte professional sports history. And there's no question that he was a superstar. People forget, and like Vince said, kids don't really know how good Larry Johnson really was. He was, and I don't say this lightly, he was about as close as we would have gotten to there being a LeBron James at the time. He could do everything. He was like this extreme physical specimen. He had this crazy, absolutely ridiculous, but I had a grandmama poster in my room. That ad campaign was genius. Who was wearing Converse before Larry Johnson was rocking them.
Hey man, Larry Johnson was on Family Matters, dog. We had a Charlotte athlete on Family Matters, dog.
Kids. Family Matter is a show with Urkel on it.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Larry Johnson, and to be fair, I'm not sure if we've ever had a superstar like Larry Johnson since then, because Cam Newton is so polarizing. He's probably the closest. Larry Johnson really wasn't all that polarizing. Everyone loved Larry Johnson. The only thing is that his career, the prime of his career, was relatively short. He really only had 5 prime seasons. 4 in Charlotte. He signed this ridiculous contract. We all remember the Alonzo Mourning fallout, and then he left unceremoniously. And really, the league and him, they associate him more with the New York Knicks than the Charlotte Hornets. But I think in the totality of Charlotte sports, there's never been anyone like Larry Johnson.
Rodney, real quick, man, you actually bring up a really good point, and I agree with you on this point. I think Larry Johnson's back injuries robbed him of his real prime. I don't even think we really saw how good Larry Johnson really could be if it wasn't for the back injuries, honestly, man. But let me speak to all of you guys' points real quick. Now, y'all already know who my beloved athlete is, but that's just me. It's just Jamal, not the city.
Guy who likes to abuse people.
Y'all know I'm a Kemba Walker guy all day, every day, but I know good and well that he's not Charlotte's most beloved figure. I know that to be true, and I actually think Kemba Walker is a victim of the franchise because the Hornets never properly built a team that could be relevant enough while Kemba Walker was in his prime to get the just due that he ultimately deserved. Kemba Walker's last 2 years, y'all, in Charlotte, over 25 a game, carrying this team as much as he could. Just imagine if we at least had another guy, if we at least had another all-star that could have at least pushed the Hornets to like a 4th or 3rd seed in the East. Imagine how much better off that could have been for Kemba Walker being appreciated, because for the longest time, I have preached the narrative that dude was underappreciated for the longest time here in Charlotte. Okay, enough about that. So if I had to pick one, and let me be very clear, y'all, I'm strictly going. No. Listen, as far as the most beloved Charlotte athlete, I'm kind of going off what I've been seeing online. It's kind of like I was doing this data research, so to speak. The 2 answers that I have been seeing the most are actually Cam Newton and Larry Johnson. Go figure, NFL, NBA. Now, to speak to Larry Johnson, just to piggyback off of Kaz's point, he's the first superstar. He's the first big name Charlotte had. He was on Family Matters. He wears his grandmama. He had the dope Converse shoes, if y'all remember. He was larger than life. And keep in mind, this was at a time where Charlotte was selling out their games every single game. We were setting attendance records. So the Stars is kind of aligned with Larry Johnson. And also, it's interesting to know, LJ had his second guy. He had Alonzo Mourning. He had Dale Curry. He had Muggsy Bogues. Kemba Walker didn't have the same thing. So it's just crazy how the stars align, and they kind of help, our beloved athletes become larger than life. Cam Newton, as polarizing as Cam Newton is, we all agree Cam Newton is the most polarizing figure in Charlotte history. However, you cannot deny the fact that the people who do love Cam Newton, they love Cam Newton. Look at the news cycle, not in just national sports media, but Charlotte media. Guys, we're talking about Cam Newton more than we're talking about our own Carolina Panthers team in the last month or so. If that doesn't say anything, I don't know what else does. So
Cam Newton might be the only athlete in Charlotte professional sports that take a lot in which he takes a large chunk of the fan base with him.
Right. Now, Kaza, one thing before you go, that did not happen with Larry Johnson.
No, it did not.
There wasn't a large chunk of the Hornets fans like, you know what, man, I'm a Knicks fan now. I didn't hear that happening back then.
No,
I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead, sir.
No, it didn't happen with Kemba either. Although I'm gonna be rooting for Boston personally, I'm rooting for Kemba in that context.
Right.
But Hornets fans were just like, man, that sucks, but I'm a Hornets fan for life.
Right,
It's
right,
people
no
out
doubt.
here who like, you know what? Forget the Carolina Panthers. I'm rolling with Cam now. I don't think we've ever had that.
Seen that before.
With anybody else.
Do you think that's more so because they're Cam Newton fans, or more so because of how Carolina treated Cam Newton and this last action was the final
mix.
straw?
It's a
I think
mix.
both. I think it's both.
I'm saying I was gonna say the same thing. I think it's a mixture of both. I really do. I do.
Because the reason, and when you go back to the way that they handled Steve Smith, when they released Steve Smith, I was pissed. I was like 38 high. But at no point did I ever question my fanhood to the Panthers. Because for the most part, they treated Steve Smith right. It was just that one incident that was very sour. And for me personally, it wasn't the unceremonious release of Cam Newton. It was the totality of how he was treated. I mean, he gets drafted, and Jerry Richardson says, "Hey, no tattoos, no piercings." So like, go ahead.
Vince, let me speak to that point real quick in terms of Steve Smith. When Steve Smith left the Panthers, okay, you know, there are a couple of reasons we heard why he left. It's because, you know, he's an alpha male. Cam Newton's an alpha male. They wanted one guy. They wanted one leader in the locker room. Steve Smith, who was 34, 35 at the time, a 34, 35-year-old wide receiver is obviously more expendable than your young gun quarterback. So when Steve Smith left, yes, we were mad, but at the same time, you can still understand at least why they made that decision. With Cam Newton, most of us don't understand why you at least don't give the guy one more year to prove himself. That a lot of us don't understand that reason. So that's another major reason why the Steve Smith situation and the Cam Newton situation were a little different in that aspect.
I understand.
Yeah, I was mad about the Josh Norman situation too. Although I feel like that was a mistake.
I agree.
I don't think the Steve Smith
and that was also about Dave Gettleman's humongous ego too. Let's not get it twisted.
We all saw
that fat bastard. God.
We see it in New York as well, and the Giants fans see it now too. So, just still one of my favorite quotes. It is what it is.
It is what it is, right?
It is.
All right, so I want to ask you guys this question. So from this point on, let's erase everybody we've talked about. Who is the prime candidate to be the next most beloved athlete in Charlotte sports history?
Christian McCaffrey.
Devontae Graham.
Wow. Kaiser, what you got?
I was gonna say CMC. The only thing with CMC, we're gonna go back to the race issue that Vince talked about. If CMC was a linebacker, but he's a running back, a position that has throughout history been dominated by black players, and as a result, a lot of black fans are like, I don't know about this white kid running back. They like him, of course, because I mean, look how good he is, but I don't think he gets that same kind of
respect,
blind passion.
He doesn't, and that's the only thing that might be keeping me from saying C-Mac. Other than that, I think Miles Bridges, man. I mean, look, people love flashy guys. He's flashy, he's confident. He goes on Twitter and talks shit to people. Fans love
He's from Flint.
If he has a breakout season next season, whenever we start playing basketball again, but if he has a breakout season, I think fans are going to gravitate to him. You're talking about a guy throwing backboard off the backboard, alley-oop dunks to himself in the damn right stuff. Fans love it. Yeah.
See, look. Honestly, I agree with that sentiment, but I don't even know how much longer CMC, Miles, or Devontae is going to be here. To be honest with you.
That's the scary part.
Let me speak to both of y'all's points. Miles Bridges has the potential to be the next, to Jamal's point, Larry Johnson-esque player in Charlotte when it comes to basketball. I can kind of see that. His detriment to being the most loving in the city, I think, will be his Twitter antics. Because if you remember correctly, about a week ago, there was like a police cop who were on Twitter basically saying, hey, if you guys want to fight me, come fight me. And
Miles
was like, "What's going on?" And by challenging the police, there's a demographic that he's gonna piss off there, you know. And the reason why I went Devontae Graham as opposed to CMC, generally speaking, basketball players have longer careers.
Yes.
So especially with CMC being a running back, you know, if we look at past trends, he has what, 4, maybe 5 more years
of being really good left.
In another 5 years, by basketball standards, Devontae Graham will be entering his prime.
Now, let me kind of bring the mood down a little bit. Let me be the curmudgeon for a second, because I think we all know this to be true. In order for Devontae Graham or Miles Bridges or any other Charlotte Hornet to become a candidate for the most beloved athlete,
you gotta win.
The Hornets have to matter. They have to be relevant. That wasn't the case back in the late 80s. The Hornets didn't have to win to be relevant back then. However, times have changed. People love stars. People love a winner, especially in the NBA. And in order for that to happen, the Hornets must win. And unfortunately, I think the next beloved athlete that comes from the Hornets would have to be someone who is going to be drafted, who is going to be the next All-Star.
LaMelo Ball.
It might be. And we don't. It might be James Wiseman. It might be Anthony Edwards. I don't think
it will be. It'll be unfortunate and unfair because let's say we.
I agree with that too.
Yeah. Let's say we draft Wiseman, then the Hornets become a playoff team. Then there you go. There's your answer right there. Even though Devontae Graham, you know, was probably the best player on the team. Terry Rozier. We saw the ascension of guys like Miles Bridges and PJ Washington, but it's whoever the Hornets draft that ends up being on the team when the Hornets are relevant again. I think you're right. That's who the fans are going to be like.
Yeah.
Be Trevor Lawrence too. So we just leave that alone.
Wouldn't that be something? So speaking of the Charlotte Hornets and moving on, there's a Charlotte Hornets player that, by all indications, looks like he wants to move on. His name is Dwayne Bacon. Dwayne Bacon's recent tweets, recent behaviors, Twitter rants throughout the season, some of Borrego's comments towards Dwayne Bacon all indicate that he probably won't be a Charlotte Hornet, maybe even as recent as next season. What are your thoughts on that, guys? Who wants to tackle this one first? Why don't you go?
It's disheartening. It's disheartening because his rookie season, he didn't get much playing time. His playing time kind of like fluctuated, and he had flashes. And so coming into this season, he was one of the ones that I think, collectively speaking, the Hornets fan base was looking forward to having a breakout season. And he actually started the season, the first 20 games or so, I'm not sure. And you know, nobody who watched those games can say that he played and did not disappoint. And I love Dwayne Bacon. I love his game. I love his style, but he regressed last season. So for your expectations to be so high and for you to regress and then have the gall to go on social media or do an interview and say, I think it's best for me to get out of here after you regressed, bro, I'll show you the door. I'll show you the door, bro.
There's this
Go ahead, Kaza.
I was gonna say there's this idea, and I see this with fans, and maybe it's because we're old school sports fans, and you guys agree with me on this. There is this idea that players need to be coddled through their mistakes. So what if you're having 10 bad games in a row? You got to let a player play through that. No, you don't have to let a player play through that. You have to win games, or you have to do what's best for the team. So Borrego gave Dwayne Bacon his chance, which I think a lot of us were happy to see. I think a lot of us had Bacon pegged as a starter. He got his chance. He didn't make good on his chance. It's as simple as that, dude. If he's upset because he feels like Borrego didn't continue to give him a chance during his slump, that's on you, bro. That is not Borrego's a coach. How would it look to other players, a guy like Malik Monk?
Right.
If you're letting Dwayne Bacon go out there, turn the ball over, go 0 for 14, the Hornets are losing games and you're letting them continue while a guy like Monk, who's had his issues, is sitting on the end of the bench. That does not look good
No.
at all.
Right.
Borrego couldn't do that. He had no choice but to sit Bacon. And it actually ended up working well for the Hornets because due to injury, Devontae Graham comes in the rotation. We start to see the ascension of Miles Bridges. PJ Washington's getting more touches. The Hornets, I hate to see it, or maybe I don't hate to see it. They're a better team. They
got better when it happened, man. That's the honest to God truth. Right, Rodney, what you got? I'm sorry.
No,
I'm sorry, Rodney.
I think Bacon sees, hey, they're a better team, and it's time for him to go.
Yeah.
I remember JJ Redick made a statement about a few months back about how different these young guys are. They just worry about the drip and how they look pregame. And the first player that came to my mind was Dwayne Bacon.
There's a reason I'm laughing. Go ahead, man.
And like, to me, man, it's like you knew you were a weak 3-point shooter. Your shot selection was off, and then like even when he was playing, his effort on defense wasn't there. And it's just like Borrego gave you these chances to improve. You are a second-round pick. You're not even supposed to make it this far, to be honest with you. And on top of that, the GM now didn't even draft you. So he has no ties to you.
Right.
And so you were given the starting spot. To me, he was given the starting spot. And he didn't make good on it. And now you want to go on social media and bitch and complain? It doesn't work like that, bro. You need to get back in the lab and do what you have to do.
Right. All right. There's a point I want to speak on, and I'm going to piggyback a lot off Kaz's point, but here's a point I want to make. I think what you're seeing is a domino effect. And let me explain what I mean by that. I think everyone is under a lot of pressure. I think Mitch Kupchak is under pressure. I think James Borrego is under pressure, which ultimately leads to all of the players being under that same pressure. One thing we all know, I think one thing that any sensible sports fan knows is Michael Jordan wants to win. And sometimes he can be a bit impatient when it comes to that. Okay. Let me explain how this relates to Dwayne Bacon. All right. I have intel who says Mitch Kupchak was on Borrego's ass a lot during the season. And you couple that with the fact that you have a lot of Hornets players, a lot of who play the same position. We said in the beginning of the season, there are a lot of wings who play for the Charlotte Hornets. You have Miles Bridges. You had Dwayne Bacon in the mix. You had Malik Monk in the mix. You had Nick Batum in the mix. You had all these guys who play the same position in this same mix. So what does that mean? It means it is ultra competitive to be in that mix. So to Kaz's point, when you get your shot, you better perform because the next guy is waiting to take that spot, especially on this particular team. You got Jalen McDaniels and the Martin twins who were all waiting in the mix. They were waiting for Dwayne Bacon to fall out with James Borrego. They were waiting for the opportunity. Look at what the Martin twins did when MKG and Marvin Williams ultimately left the team. Yeah. Look at what they did when Dwayne Bacon blew his chance. So with that being said, what we saw was a bit of immaturity from Dwayne Bacon. Brother, it is professional sports. You may only get one shot, man. It's just reality. You can cry about it. You can go on Twitter, complain about it. To quote John Fox again, it is what it is, bro. Dwayne Bacon, you made a lot of us look bad because we were all believing in you from the beginning of the season. I said something that looks really crazy. I said, I believe Dwayne Bacon could be a 20-point scorer in this league. I kind of still believe that. Yeah. But at the same time, you blew your shot, brother. So this is where we're at right now, man. You only get one shot. And at this point, I believe it is best for everyone involved for Dwayne Bacon to move on. If Dwayne Bacon goes to some other team and he becomes that 20-point a game scorer, I'm not even going to be mad. I'm not. It's not going to be a situation where I'd be like, well, why didn't you do that for the Hornets? Because of all the reasons I just said. And ultimately, if it works out for everybody, it works out for everybody. And God bless him whatever he decides to do, man. That's how I feel about it.
And quick caveat: the Martin twins were actually put into the rotation as 2 to 5 minute fillers. They legitimately forced Borrego's hand to give them.
Exactly.
This is one of the few situations to where I can say a player forced the coach to give them more minutes because they capitalized on their opportunity.
When they were in there. Right. All right. So with that being said, and guys, I have to apologize because we are running out of time, and there's another topic that I'm going to bypass this week. We'll catch up on it this week. But real quickly, we got to talk about this before we go. We have to talk about this before we go. Mr. Kanye Kardashian has decided that he is going to run for. I'm sorry, I can barely get it out, y'all. I'm sorry.
I know who I'm voting for already. I don't make the decision between Trump and Biden anymore.
Look, I can't even get it out. Kanye West is running for president. Guys, we got about 5 minutes. Real quickly, what are your thoughts, man?
No. Okay.
because we are running close to an hour, I'm going to let this response be my shout out. Okay.
All right.
And
that's fair.
I just want to give a shout out to the United States government. This just shows how pathetically put together our government is. When somebody like Donald Trump and 4 years later Kanye West has the confidence and the gall to say, "Hey," and it shows our further ignorance to how politics work because Kanye West, it's actually too late for him to put his name on the presidential ballot in like 5 or 6 states right now. And I think this latest action solidifies the United States in becoming that shithole country that somebody else talked about a couple of months ago. We are officially
dumbest. We're the dumbest nation in the planet. I'm sorry. I don't care who gets offended by that. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Let me actually say that I don't knock people for having aspirations and wanting to do stuff and all this, that, and the third. But in this particular situation, it's just a hard no. And it's sad because if he legitimately runs and is able to put his name on the ballot in whatever states, I think what's going to happen, those people who are already on the fence about Biden will now go vote for him, and Biden will actually lose more votes, and we will probably get Dingleberry in chief for another 4 years. And it's like it's
disheartening, man.
Disheartening would be the word. Disheartening.
Hey, Rodney or Kaza, did y'all have any other thoughts as far as that goes?
The great Bomani Jones just had a PSA that I just want to read. He said, anyone treating this Kanye 2020 thing as a legitimate is an effing idiot.
And I know this isn't a conversation, and I've seen a lot of those comments, but can we really say that considering that we didn't take Dingleberry?
Donald, that's my point. That is completely my point, Vince, because the last time I didn't take a celebrity running for president seriously, ta-da, this is what happened. Kaza, did you have anything else, brother?
I mean, it's a joke. I mean, all of this is a joke. The whole everything, the president, it's a joke already without Kanye West.
Yeah,
it's a joke with them. Kanye West is an entertainer. This is kind of entertaining. It's funny. Nobody cares. Honestly, I think we're gonna get 4 more years of Trump, regardless. What's hurting him is the pandemic response, but I don't even think that's enough to derail the train of people that want to keep Trump in.
It's troubling, man. It's very
mainly because Biden is such a weak candidate. So
yeah, Kaz, you got any shout outs?
Real quick shout out to the Mercedes AMG F1 team. They changed the livery on their cars from silver, which it's been that way for over 70 years, to all black this year. Lewis Hamilton, the current F1 champion, is wearing a Black Lives Matter helmet for the remainder of the season. And they have the hashtag End Racism and All In Together on their cars because Mercedes AMG is known to be a fairly diverse team with a lot of people of color and people of different sexual orientations, and that's a good thing considering that F1. Everyone talks about how racist NASCAR is. F1 is actually kind of worse because they are an international sport.
Yeah.
There's only one black driver, and he's the best. And a lot of people don't like him. They won't say it's because he's black, but it's because he's black. So shout out to them. Mercedes actually won today. F1 is back on schedule. The Austrian Grand Prix was today. Lewis Hamilton came in fourth, but his teammate won. So it was good to see an all-black car with in racism and Black Lives Matter on the podium. That was a great thing.
Rodney, any shout-outs?
I got two shot at.
All right.
One, the violence that happened on Beatty'sville Road on Juneteenth. And in Greenville, South Carolina last night, 12 people were shot at a rap concert with an artist. And unfortunately, 2 or 3 people died.
Just do better. Just do better.
Stop this shit. And then finally, I have a shot at Mr. Jim Baxter of South Carolina varsity. So a young man in South Carolina, he's a linebacker. Jim basically wrote Happy Independence Day. The young guy responded back basically, hey, United States is fine on backstabbing, murder, and all this other stuff, which is true. And then Mr. Jim Baxter, an adult, responded to this child, you may want to go read your history, young man. And as I tell everyone else, if you don't like this country, get the hell out of it.
Say no more,
better, man. Look,
say no more.
You can't give everyone access to your kids. That's all I got to say.
Absolutely. I just have one shout out today. Shout out to Maya Moore, who basically sacrificed a small fraction of her career to free. And I'm sorry I don't have the specifics because it just kind of came to me at the last minute. But she freed someone who was wrongly convicted of a crime, and it took her well over almost 3 years to accomplish the feat. She actually, the guy I believe just got released, and I'm sorry I don't have the details and the specifics in front of me, but shout out to Maya Moore for just doing some real groundwork, man. I mean, making some real sacrifice and laying some real groundwork to make that happen. And shout out to just Under Construction Extended Family, man. Shout out to Jerry V, who made a video for us this week, who made a great video for us this week. So, man, if y'all haven't, please check that out. Shout out to everybody who continues to support us. I know not under construction. I know that sports period is going through a really crazy, extraordinary time, just like the rest of society is. Under construction is trying to adapt. So again, just thank you to our supporters who continue to support. And with that being said, y'all, it's always a pleasure, gentlemen. I have fun doing this every time we can get together. So peace out, y'all, man. See y'all next time.
Appreciate it, y'all.
Peace.